Hello everybody and Jessica and welcome back to RWBY Ice Queendom episode 10. We are slowly but steadily headed towards the finale in episode 12 if I'm not mistaken. I don't think it has like 13 episodes, I think it's just a regular single core of 12. Um, that means we have like what, 3 episodes left, 10, 11 and 12, and it seems this episode should bring a resolution to everything. Maybe the next one at the latest. Honestly, with how much they are stretching the content, wouldn't surprise me if episode 11 was actually the climax of this series and episode 12 was, I don't know, a little bit of a summary talking about what happened and wind down period essentially. Although everything points towards this episode being the climax, with how everything kind of converges at one point in the where are they? Well, they are somewhere and they are fighting against Weiss, who went to sleep but was rudely woken up from her eternal slumber. Woken up by RWBY, who together with this version of Pyrrha, Lil Vices, and Jean stormed the castle with a train, because apparently RWBY has the power to lay down the tracks, because the real Weiss trusts her with that. Apparently, that's something that exists, that just is. And in parallel to them, it seems like Yang and Blake figured out another angle, another way that they can use to handle Weiss. They found another relic in that abandoned place full of White Fang. White Fang who seemed to maybe if not listen to Blake, then at least not attack her, then at least be neutral. And they of course utilized the White Fang to distract Weiss, and Blake jumped into the fray, all very White Fang looking, with the mask, with claws, with all like big meaty paws, essentially. So we're kind of approaching the thing from multiple directions. Hopefully now they will finally manage to fight Nega Weiss. They will finally manage to win, because how many times can you repeat the cycle of almost being there and oh no, we lost, right? One interesting thing is Jean's sword that seems to be Grim repellent for some reason. I don't know if that's connected to the fact that he has been infected by the Grim before, and maybe the sword is like a crystallization of his immunity to Grim or something like that. Or is it because Weiss sees that sword as something that can repel the Grim? I don't know. I'm not sure. It's kind of hard to figure out the mechanics of a world if the world is just a dream. It's just a nightmare, it's a dream. It doesn't really follow any sort of like laws of physics and logic and whatnot. Anything can be anything at any time at all. So that sword, again, can be anything. We have a relic. We're finally on the offensive. From the first frame of this episode, I see Blake and Yang. So maybe in this episode we're gonna go over their adventures in the manor, how they figured out how to utilize the White Fang, how to transport the whole manor in the location where the fight was taking place, how to crack the sky essentially. Or we're gonna get straight to the fight, I don't know. Knowing this series, this episode is probably all gonna be about Blake and Yang figuring things out, and the next episode is gonna be the actual fight. Oh well, I mean, no point like thinking of what's gonna happen, we should just see what's gonna happen, right? And you're gonna need your subs to do that. I'm gonna need my sound. And I'm also gonna need to ask you for your support, monetary or otherwise, monetary on Patreon or Throne. Otherwise, completely free. Share my content, spread the word. It really matters a lot for the growth of a channel if you bring new viewers here. We've recently hit a new milestone of 8,000 watch hours, which is a lot. And it's thanks to you guys. So, with all that said, we can start watching episode 10 of RWBY Ice Queendom Hyousetsu Teikoku, episode 10 in 3, 2, 1, go. Just a coffee. Yeah. My reaction exactly. Come again? I guess it's a plan, but it's making a very bold assumption. Bold assumption that Nega Blake will actually be an equal of Nega Weiss inside of Nega Weiss's dream. Right? Like, it's still Weiss's dream, Weiss's world. Sure, I guess. That's a lot of assumptions you're making here, Blake. That's like a whole lot of assumptions you're making. How do you suddenly know so much about nightmares? I think I thought nightmares are like a super rare breed of a Grimm. So how come she's a specialist suddenly? Opening? Opening. I mean, the plan is crazy, but sound to a degree, right? If Nightmare Vice is this strong, then I need to become Nightmare Blake to match her strength. But they're still inside of Vice's dream. Unless Blake hopes to, like, create her own dream, her own nightmare, and, like, connect the two nightmares so it's both of their worlds at the same time? I don't know. Also, the biggest assumption here that Jean's nightmare is still alive, apparently. And for some reason, it's inside of Vice's dream? I don't know. I don't know. Like, okay, sure, if you don't analyze it super in depth, it makes sense and it even sounds kind of fucking cool. But if you look at it just a little bit more in depth, then kinda starts falling apart. Yeah, you could say that. They're gonna jump in at the last moment. Or is it too many? Yeah. Yeah. Trust them. Trust Shion. I love how there is a label saying telepathy on the phone. Not really. Everything failed so far. Okay, so apparently they need help from the outside to do the thing. They have none. Yeah. Okay, so they are essentially creating a second nightmare that clashes with the initial one. Yeah, she just needed to hype herself up. Okay, at least if Blake gets possessed, there shouldn't be much of an issue waking her up. Since everybody more or less has trust there. It was just Weiss that was the standoffish element of the group. Oh, right, they have the nightmare stored in this container. Trigger on the staff? That's cool. And forceful implantation of the nightmare. Thorn tattoo? Thorn tattoo. Right, because that's Blake's relic. Right, the black relic belongs to Blake. And the hallucinations begin. Yeah, the one she ran away from. But the nightmare will quickly change this outlook. Yeah, it reveals the worst in everybody. Okay, so that's how the dream cracked, and how the manor appeared suddenly, randomly at the site of the battle with Weiss. It's a wolf now. I guess because it's Weiss's dream, not Weiss's, Blake's dream now. No, she's anything but. But that was the assumption that that's exactly what's gonna happen. Train? Right, it's all about the train, isn't it? Trains that carry Schnee wares that are always being. That's a cool visual. That's a cool visual. More of that, please. More of that. Yeah, the train is very significant here. It's the site of a clash between the Schnee family and the White Fang. Now, what's Yang's plan here exactly, though? That's my question. Oh? How did it stop? Is Blake controlling the nightmare to a degree? So I'm assuming anything that belongs to Jean is like a nightmare deterrent. That's what I'm getting here, right? The sword is a big nightmare deterrent. The cape seems to be a nightmare deterrent. Interesting that it's not just he himself that deters the nightmare, that's like immune to it, but all of his possessions are deterrents. Now I have to question why was his cape there, but let's not worry about the details, right? Oh, what happened to your face, Yang? Okay, and now we are back to where we left off in the previous episode. And we still have like almost half an episode left, so. Superhero landing, well, kinda sorta. Not really landing. I love her shoes. Oh, oh, oh no, please. Why use CG there? At least the rest of the fighting looks like genuinely decent. Okay, now you need to get inside and free the real Weiss. Oh, hello. Big Nikolasu. And the biggest Nikolasu. Yeah, maybe don't flaunt that relic. You know, it's your last one, so you probably should try, like, keeping it safe. And by that, I mean, don't do something stupid like throwing it around, like exposing it. Okay, that's a plan. What's that blob supposed to be? I guess like the tire of. What are some of the shots in this episode? Some of the shots are very nothing. That's what I meant when I said keep it safe. Uh. Huh? You could have used your gun to shoot down the bat, no matter which way the barrel points. Oh, how convenient. And then there's those checkerboard planes. Okay. Okay, that's cool that his hand only cracked. I was afraid for a moment that Yang is gonna manage to, like, completely shatter this arm or something. But just cracking it up, good. Actual, like, power scaling that makes sense. Would you look at that? Blake is actually pushing Weiss back. The nightmare grows, the nightmare grows. But it looks different. Curious. It's not thorns, it's like scales. Yeah, probably. At least as hard as saving Weiss. Right, there's the time limit. Yeah, we already knew that it's essentially their last shot at saving Weiss. Okay, at least RWBY can move freely. And she should be immune to the nightmare by now, right? Because she got stung by the thorn, the nightmare infected her, and then she was ripped out of that nightmare. So she should be immune now, the same way Jean is. Or is like infection through a thorn different than infection through nightmare proper? Like a secondary infection doesn't give you immunity or whatever? That's very weird thing of Nega Vice to say. Or is it like the real Vice shining through? Yeah, this very much feels like regular Vice, not like Nega Vice. Nega Vice would be like, hell yeah, come on, we're gonna fight, I'm gonna kill all you motherfucking Faunus. But she's not all that. Now she is. But just before she was questioning all of that, are you really Blake? Real Blake would never say that, yada yada. Okay, so the thorn spiral is still on her palm. I wonder if it's gonna become an issue. I hope not. Let it end already. Let them fucking win. Finally. Cliffhanger? Cliffhanger. There we go. Hmm. I don't know what to think of this episode, to be perfectly honest with you. Like, it had some cool moments, don't get me wrong, but it also had some really wonky art, some random use of CG, some reasoning that makes not entirely a full amount of sense. Hmm. Maybe I'm also just tired. Not like tired, but tired of the formula of this show, just repeating and repeating and nothing ever changing. Like in any other anime, by now we would be at like fourth distinct arc. In RWBY Ice Queendom, we're constantly at the same arc. Nothing ever changes, really. That's a cool art though, so hey, that's something. Okay, how about we go through this episode again to see what exactly went wrong, what exactly went right. Shall we? Uh, yeah, we should use the nightmare that possessed Jean. Right. Initially, I was confused because I completely forgot about the fact that Jean's nightmare is living in a jar somewhere. I was under the impression that Blake, for some reason, believes that Jean's nightmare is still alive and somehow exists within Weiss's dream. But no, no, it lives somewhere in the jar. I completely forgot about it because it happened in, like, what, episode 4? Quite a long time ago. And yeah, that's what having super long arcs does. That's like one thing, right? Where you kind of forget what the fuck was going on at the beginning. And that's not good. That's not good. Uh what was I about to say? Yeah, that's why you need those like distinct arcs, first of all, to keep things fresh. Imagine if Overlord Season 4 was entirely just the Dwarven Kingdom. No matter how much you love the arc of the Dwarven Kingdom, watching Dwarven Kingdom adventures for 3 months straight would eventually cause some Dwarven fucking fatigue, wouldn't it? And that's kinda what this show suffers. It's essentially just one arc. There was one arc in episodes 1 to 3, the beginning, the origin story, in like introduction to the world, to the characters and whatnot, and then the other 9 episodes, it seems, is the dream arc. And by the time episode 10 hit, I completely forgot what the fuck was going on in episode 4. So, yeah, not wasn't the best choice to focus solely on the dream. I feel they could have done it a little bit better. They could have given us a little bit more, not more in just quantity, but more in like distinct things. The world of RWBY seems incredibly vast and incredibly diverse, and there seems to be so much to see, to watch, to explore, and we're just stuck in the same location with the same characters doing the same thing over and over and over and over again. It's not even a villain of the week formula, where sure, we're doing the same thing over and over again, but each week there's a different villain, so it shakes things up a little. No, it's just continued fight against the Nega Weiss and against the Nightmare for 6 episodes now. By the time it ends, no, 6? 7 episodes by now. By the time the show ends, it's gonna be like 10, no, sorry, 9 episodes of just the same thing. Okay, let's continue. Hold it, tell me what exactly you're planning. Yeah, that's actually a good, great sentiment there. Don't just jump to conclusions, don't just jump into action. Let's discuss so that I know what the fuck is going on. If I can help, if I cannot help, what am I supposed to do, right? Don't just instantly call the professor. The other nightmare is still alive, yeah. If we're no match for negative Weiss in the dream, then I'll become her equal. This was initially kinda odd to me, because you would still be inside of Weiss's dream, right? So if Weiss sees you as not a threat, then you would not be a threat to her. Really simple as that. But it turns out that if you are possessed by a full-blown nightmare while inside of another nightmare, those two nightmares kind of clash. And thus they actually do stand on equal terms. Weiss has her world, and Blake has her world. And it evens out, essentially. So, in retrospect, it makes a modicum of sense. We need to do it to drive out the nightmare-possessing Weiss. Yeah, after I free Weiss, you can free me. And see, that would be kind of a nifty little premise to the show to spice things up. 3 episodes of introduction, then like 4 episodes inside of Weiss's dream. The way to wake her up requires Blake to get infected, and then you get 4 episodes of rescuing Blake. Right? You have like 3 distinct arcs that change things up a little. Blake's world would be different and kinda like more interesting from what we've seen. There's all those purple flames, pink flames, burning trees, and stuff like that. More interesting vistas than just endless sea of ice and snow. So that would be cool. That would be cool, but no, we decided to just continue inside of Weiss's mind all the time. You saw how freely Jean could move around. This is a real good chance of working. True, you could gain immunity. Question is, though, I mean, it's not a question apparently. I was about to ask. Question is, do you gain immunity with the moment you are infected with a nightmare, or with the moment you defeat the nightmare inside of you? Seems to be the former, since Blake believes that getting infected alone would make her immune. They're doing it because of the White Fang, because they're Faunus, they actually hate Weiss. Yeah, this is a fair point. This is a collection of things that, not things that don't belong, that she wants to reject and refuse the existence of. It's things that she doesn't understand, and she kinda can't be bothered with, or maybe is afraid to understand. That would explain why, besides White Fang, there are also books here, for example. Right? Maybe those books are some hard read that she tried to read, that she wants to understand. Maybe those are some, like, I don't know, uh, philosophical essays or something that she heard. Oh yeah, it would be cool if you read Aristotle or whatever, but she couldn't manage that, so she kind of put it on the sidelines. She wants to understand it, but for now she just kind of rejects it. Same goes for the White Fang. Same goes for Blake. She wants to understand them. She wants to know about them, but she just, yeah, she wants to avoid that or can't figure them out. Yeah, because if she tries to figure out the White Fang, she would be kind of admitting the wrongdoings of her family, kind of sort of deal. Or maybe the other point, that she can't figure them out because she knows absolutely nothing about White Fang besides the fact that they are attacking the trains of her family and killing innocent people and stealing dust and whatnot. So, yeah, it makes sense that all of that would be in here. They reflect each other. That's a very good point, actually. That's a very good point. The Schnee Company, being aggressive towards the White Fang, drives White Fang's aggression towards the Schnee family. And the Schnee family, in turn, responds with more aggression. And the White Fang, in turn, responds with more aggression. An endless loop, an endless cycle of violence, essentially. Right? They are attacking our trains. We must place more troops on those transports to protect them. Oh, they're placing more troops on those transports to protect them. That means we need to send more people and maybe blow up the bridge. Oh, they blew up the bridge, they're escalating. That means we need to patrol the area ahead of the train with heavy infantry transports. Oh, they're having heavy infantry transports. That means we should use anti armor mines, and it just constantly fuels itself. Very, very good point. If I'm possessed by the nightmare, this place's mirror opposite should appear. That's a bold assumption to make. it turns out to be true. Like everything that Blake says here does turn out to be true, as verified by Professor. What's her face? Starts with S. Shion. By Shion. Uh, but why does Blake know all of that? Is it just her instinct, her intuition? She has like no right to know that because the Nightmare Grimm are so exceedingly rare that there are specific people whose trade is only and solely hunting the Nightmare Grimm. And there aren't many of them. Shion is the only one we've heard of so far. So why would Blake have so much knowledge about them? That's kinda a little bit iffy. Bringing with it memories of the Faunus prosecution. If Weiss and I can face each other and realize that we're friends and equals, if we realize we're reflections of each other, that yeah, that's a good point again that Yang makes here. Sure, if you realize in a real world that you're opposites and that each of you has some like good points, and in the end you're friends and you don't want to like fight over all of that, that sure, yeah, the Schnee family is kind of shitty, yeah, the White Fang is also shitty, we can bond over that. I escaped the White Fang, you escaped your family, we're best buddies now, kind of a situation. But that's a very good point. It's a dream. Both of them have like clouded minds, not even clouded, completely shut off. It's their worst that resurfaces and creates the nightmare, the nega persona around them. They don't think straight, they cannot be reasoned with. So again, kind of going on an assumption that even though that is the case, it will work somehow. Nightmares don't normally attack other nightmares. Uh, is she saying that because of the precedent with Jean, how he became immune? Or is she again pulling from some knowledge base of nightmares that she apparently has access to? We need a reason to fight strong enough to make us defy another nightmare. I guess the hate between Faunus and the Schnee family can be used as such a fuel, so makes sense. And yeah, what do you know? It's perfectly possible. Because of course it is. Yeah, we re-established the fact that the rest of the Team Juniper cannot help because. I mean, I'm saying because, but the reason is actually valid, right? The reason is valid. There is only so much strength that Shion has. There's only. Her semblance has its limits. You can't exactly just keep adding people over and over again. Replacing? That might be a valid strategy. Although, from what we heard, this is like genuinely their last shot. Shion, by the time Shion can recharge her semblance, Weiss would already be done for. So that's a time limit they have. This is a nice line. Believe in the friends who will one day fight by your side. Uh, it might feel weird that I'm kind of singling this line out, but this line kind of reminded me that, oh yeah, adventures, battles they're gonna have together that we're not gonna witness in this season. Yeah, you will one day fight side by side. Maybe you're gonna fight some spider Grimm. Maybe you're gonna find some giant Grimm. Maybe you're gonna find the sunken city of Atlantis and fight mermaid Grimm. Side by side, together, Team Juniper, Team RWBY, best buddies. Too bad we're not gonna see any of that. This line reminds me of the wider world of all the adventures they can go for, but at the same time it kind of rubs it in that haha you wish you saw them fight side by side. You're not gonna. It's all Weiss's dream, and that's it. That's the season. I mentioned it once, but I love everything about Shion. Actually, like genuinely, Shion is probably my favorite character in this entire show so far. I love her how her magic is a rotary phone with a plague obstructed with a pasted piece of paper that just says telepathy. It's not a phone, it's a telepathy. I love how she uses those like computer things. She has a weird jar that looks like the jars they use to store liquid nitrogen and some, I don't know, frozen samples of something. I love everything about Shion, and this is no exception. Yeah, success is not guaranteed. Of course, it's not. Uh, this reminds me of one thing I wanted to talk about. Many very nothing shots in this episode. Shots that just show some blob of color or show just a vista where nothing happens or show something that I'm not even sure what it is or just show the speaker of the phone. Like, okay, this makes sense. It keeps us in suspense, right? And then we hear that, yeah, you have approval. A cool detail that everybody's coins have a little bit of a different design. I like this little moment with Yang when she's like thinking, mulling it over, and like convincing herself that this is the thing to do. One of the few like really cool characterization moments that actually shows the inner turmoil without, I don't know, having to spell it out. Although RWBY has been pretty good about not spelling out like inner thoughts and whatnot. But this really shows well that she's currently inside of her own headspace and she's thinking and hyping herself up. Yeah, I'm done. I get over the fact that I can die. Let's go. Let's do it. They are still hiding their true powers. Ominous, isn't it? Or I guess maybe the opposite of ominous. Kind of predicting that Team RWBY still has things to show us. And a little bit of a moment for Team Juniper. Yeah, if worst comes to worst, we will do the same for each other. I really do like. Again, I love everything about. Uh, I forgot her name again. Shion. About Shion, the trigger on her wand. That it's not just magical, it's partly mechanical and defies the rules of perspective, which is cool. That exemplifies the fact that it is mechanical in the end, that it is magical in the end. Her fingers get sunk into it as well. There's some really cool visuals here with the threads, with the jar, with the thing crawling along the thread, burrowing in. And yeah, of course, this dude would be Blake's nightmare. He's the one that Blake escaped from. He's the one that has those, like, the most. What am I call it? The most, not fringe, but the most hardcore, I guess, beliefs, right? Believes in Faunus supremacy and whatnot, and eradicating all humans. He's the personification of everything that Blake was trying to escape from. And yeah, she's strong. She is incredibly strong. Blake, from what we've seen so far, she's probably the most mentally strong character out of everybody present. Wouldn't surprise me if Blake was able to wake out of the nightmare with her sheer willpower alone. Honestly, I wouldn't even be surprised if in the end they are like debating, oh, what should we do about Blake now? Should we go in? Should we rest? What do we do? And then Blake just opens her eyes and says, oh yeah, I was just giving space to my nightmare. We saved Weiss. I thought that's that, so I just chose to wake up. Wouldn't surprise me at all. But of course she does have that darkness in her heart. As does everybody. And here we finally see the rifts start appearing, and we have an explanation, kinda sorta, of how the manor appeared right next to the scene of battle with Weiss, the symbolism of the train. Again, it's the battlefield between the White Fang and the Schnee family, as far as we're concerned, at least. Perhaps there are some scuffles, some battles, some combat in White Fang villages, maybe in the Schnee family mines or whatever, sure, but as far as this season is concerned, all we know is the train and the transports. So the symbolism of the train tracks, remains alive. This is a great visual. Reminds me a lot of Kill la Kill, honestly. There was, I think, one of the first henshins of Ryuko where she gets consumed by Senketsu has similar art style, not the exact same, but similar. And of course, the color scheme of black, red, and yellow really does remind me of Ryuko again. I love the quadruple eyes because those are the eyes of her mask. I love everything about this, and it's also animated in once. The very rare moment of some like genuine artistry put in the show. Like I know it might sound harsh, but it genuinely seems like one of the very few moments where an actual artist was given a say instead of, I don't know what to call it. They're still artists, but more like uh, the difference between someone who makes oil paintings and someone who makes pizza place flyers. Right? They are both artists, but one of them does it for the art, the other does it because it pays the bills. And a lot of this season, a lot of this series has felt like it was made by someone who just wants to pay the bills. Right? Like, get it over with. Does it look like Yang? Kinda. If I squint, it looks like Yang. Cool, ship it. Right? A lot of the season feels like it. This is one of the few moments that has some modicum of care put into it. This is weird and very convenient that out of nowhere, Jean's cloak, was it laying there on the ground? No, we don't see it. Did the nightmare bring it? Why would it? If it's repelled from it, it just suddenly popped into existence. Those are some amazing visuals. Honestly, that's one of the reasons why I would love to get inside of Blake's nightmare. Those pink burning trees. Those flames on those trees look like sakura blossoms, right? But they are fire. They are blaze. I love the color scheme here. I love the burning trees. Much more interesting than just snow and ice, wouldn't you say? CG bike. Thankfully, it's here. Oh, Weiss. Yang is running in place again. There is something about this studio and their love for running in place. Although, I guess she kind of grows on screen, so she's supposed to be getting closer, but there is no shadow or anything, so... yeah, whatever. And yeah, we are finally where we left off in the previous episode. Yang is here, Blake is here. I love her boots. What can I say? I really do. What I don't love is this. First of all, this checkerboard place. Sure, it is some sort of a checkerboard plaza, but it has like columns, some wrought iron statues. It has things there. It has the skyline. It has some circles in the sky. It has clouds. And then we enter just the world of infinite checkerboard. Right? This. There's no sky anymore. There's no clouds. It's just a checkerboard. And some glow and CG Vice animated on once. Like one of the simplest and worst mistakes you can make animating something CG and adding it on top of 2D things. Animating on once. Honestly, I would have preferred a sliding PNG here. Genuinely. I would have preferred a sliding PNG. No cap. I love Blake's new getup. The one long sword, one short sword with like a sawed-off shotgun tacked onto it. Chains, cool boots, cool color scheme. Thumbs up. This is weird. I mentioned before scenes and cuts of nothing. This is just a shot of the city. We are hearing some battle, but we're not seeing it. It's just a panning shot of the city. It's not even that they are seen like two just colored blobs jumping between the rooftops. Like sometimes you have battles in some battle shonens in I think even in Dragon Ball they started doing that at some point where it's just two glowing points with light trails and they're just clashing and that's the battle. There isn't even any of that here. It's just a still shot of the city with combat sounds. I wanna see that combat. I wanna see them fight. That's actually something kinda hype. That's actually something you're decent at doing, so show me the fight, please. I've seen this city. I've seen it far too much. I've been seeing it for far too long than I care. I have enough of this city. Show me the cool shit. And yeah, I guess we are seeing some of the cool shit. some of the combat. Big Blake, very big Blake. Zooming past. This is cool. CG, but for CG it looks cool with all the distortion and the effects. And yeah, here comes Yang, and we are again on the endless plains of checkerboard. I would rather they fight in the city that I've seen so much of than in those checkerboard plains. It really doesn't work for me. It really doesn't excite me. Like, we're in a dream. Show me some dreamlike sequences, not a checkerboard. That's a wonky face. I guess because of the whatchamacallit, the hair in front of her face, maybe. Kinda. It kinda seems like the artist drew the hair first and then was like, oh shit, how do I fit eyes here? Let's just spread them apart so they fit in between the bangs. Bangs, that's what I meant. Yeah. Yeah, a lot of, again, a lot of nothing shots. Like this. It's the bike from below, I guess? Like, I think I see Yang's hair there, and this is a tire. Why would I want to see a zoom of a bike tire? I don't know. The tire is clashing with the arm, and that causes nothing. I don't know. Now this is cool. Some actual, like, not stretch lines, but the little fuzzing of the outline that creates additional motion. This I don't get. Wait, was that even hit? I don't know. I don't think so. It just dropped the relic and run. Is that how he wanted me to use advice? I got nothing. Like, first of all, it was self-inflicted situation, kinda. Ruby wasn't taking care of the relics, so it got stolen, so she retrieved it. Immediately, there wasn't even any, like, time for tension to rise or anything. It genuinely feels like a weird attempt at justifying what Weiss said. Right? Because Weiss said that, oh, your weapon is this way for a reason. And everybody was like, what the fuck was the reason? What does it change that her weapon shoots from this end and not from the other? And now it's said that this was the reason. What exactly, though? Like, there wouldn't be any difference where the barrel is. She could have shot the bat anyway. It really feels like someone wrote the line that Weiss said that, oh yeah, it's all for a reason, and then someone else was scratching their head, wondering why the fuck did Bob fucking write that in? Now I'm gonna have to figure out what she meant by that. have her shoot the bat down. I don't fucking know. I don't fucking care. I didn't write this shit. It really feels that way. Maybe we're gonna see other examples in the future. I don't know. I don't know where Ruby has to use the actual scythe bit to hang onto some balcony or something, and because the barrel is facing down, she can shoot some enemies below her or something. I don't know. That would actually justify the way. That would actually explain Vice's words somewhat. But as of yet, I see no explanation, no like actual genuine real explanation. I love tiny vices though. That's probably the highlight of this season. Tiny vices. Like honestly. Here we have the big sword again. More checkerboard. Now this is cool. City in the background, driving on a wall. More of that. Less of this, please. More of this. Right? Like, they can create some interesting landscapes, some interesting vistas. They can do that. So why the fuck would you use checkerboard for the majority of this episode? If I must judge you further, it will go far beyond exile. That's some cool fight, and I guess props for not making it CG. That should be a default, but I probably come to expect too much, so props for not using CG there. Also, finally, for the first time, we are making some actual progress. I like it. For the first time since the beginning of this season, we're actually pushing Weiss back bit by bit, and by we, I mean Blake, of course. We're finally headed towards some sort of a resolution, some sort of a win. I couldn't possibly stomach another instance of them suddenly losing to Negavice and having to try again. Like, honestly, if they pulled this shit one more time, this would be the first anime on this channel that I would have dropped. Like, no joke. Because you can only do that so many times before it becomes completely and utterly stale. It has become stale as it is, but at least it's bearable, especially now that we see some actual progress being done. And of course, an exchange of grievances. I really do love Blake's design here. Nega Blake is probably my favorite design so far, on par with Shion. This is a cool shot. This is a very cool imagery. They can do that if they want to. Problem is, for the majority of time, they just don't give a fuck about the quality, it seems. And yeah, since Blake did take the nightmare willingly, she deep down knows what's up. It might be that her heart does maintain resistance, so it might actually be not that hard to wake her up. Ruby can enter thanks to the relic. And yeah, Weiss is fighting too. I guess so. I guess that's actually a thing where Weiss's heart does fight against it all. What grudge do you hold against me? This is weird moment to me, honestly, because this is Nega Weiss, right? She exemplifies all the negativity, all the darkness of Weiss's heart. She is the Weiss that hates White Fang, that hates Faunus, that hates Blake. She's the Weiss that wants to hate, that wants to stagnate, that wants things to go to sleep, that wants to uh, lock down the issues that she doesn't want to deal with. She's all that's negative about Weiss. And yet here she's like, I didn't do any of that. I don't hate all of the Faunus. Is it the real Weiss shining through? Or is it an inconsistency? Very hard to tell. Cool combat though. Cool fight scene. Uh, and yeah, are you really Blake? The Blake I know would never say such things, but again, it's Nega Weiss. In her mind, Blake is someone who would say such things. Because Blake is a Faunus and a White Fang. Right? So, again, is it real Weiss shining through or what's going on? And here, I'll strip you of that mask and force you back to your senses. I want the real Blake back. The Blake who's my friend, but that's, again, not Nega Weiss. So that you will never again awaken from your sleep. This is Nega Weiss. We're kind of jumping back and forth, kind of, sorta. Uh, or it's as if they done something where they kind of forgot what the nightmare version of a person is supposed to be, and this is supposed to be like regular Weiss, but a little angrier, and that's her character. No, she's, as far as we know, she's supposed to be all the negative things given form, but she's not. And yeah, the final fight against the Nightmare, the Grim itself. Why the long face? But yeah, another bit of cool combat. Again, not using CG, so props for that. And a very cool scene for a cliffhanger. And the next episode is called Light in Shadows. This one was like, what, Reflection of Darkness or something like that. The next one is Light in Shadows. So I'm assuming they're gonna find their way, they're gonna find the light, and they're gonna be saved. And that's where we're gonna more or less end. And episode 12 is gonna be a summary and kind of a winding down. Or maybe episode 12, maybe like half of episode 11 and half of episode 12 will be trying to wake up Blake. I don't know. Maybe they're gonna end this season with Blake succumbing to the nightmare, and that's gonna be a cliffhanger. Wait for season 2. RWBY Fire Queendom, all about Blake. On one hand, it would be kind of cool to explore more characters. On the other, I don't know if I would be able to sit through another 12 episodes of a motherfucking dream sequence. Mixed feelings about that. Cool art, so that's cool at least. Okay, what can I say about this episode? Fairly ambivalent feelings. When it comes to the characters, the characterization, the stories, it's decent to good, right? There hasn't been really any moment where I would be like, oh, I hate how this character is written, or oh, I hate this storyline, or anything like that. They seem to be pretty good about it. If some bits aren't great, they are at least decent. The whole thing with Blake figuring out how to defeat a nightmare with another nightmare, even though she has absolutely no knowledge of nightmares, was kind of iffy, but ultimately it was validated by Shion, so whatever. but that wasn't bad strictly. It was iffy, but it wasn't bad. It was decent. The thing with anything else, really, it's at worst decent. So when it comes to characters and stories, they are covered. Besides maybe the bit where we are 7 episodes, 6 or 7 episodes in a dream sequence. I don't like how they're elongating it, prolonging it, constantly doing the same shit over and over again. But I'm gonna be lenient. I'm gonna say that it's down to the suits above. That whoever had the idea for this show had an idea for like 5 episodes inside of Vice's mind, but the suits said no, we need at least a full core, so they tried to stretch it out. That's, I think, like the only thing story wise or character wise that I actively do not enjoy. Characters as individuals, great. All the stories, all their thinking, all the mini arcs, great. The overarching thing, not so much. Visuals, especially in this episode, not great. Like honestly, genuinely makes me sad because I see a lot of potential in some of those shots. I genuinely do. That someone was trying to make something cool, but was only given 3 crayons: a red one, a green one, and a brown one. And they had an idea for a masterpiece. They had all the poses in mind. They had all the backgrounds in mind. They had everything in mind, but they were given a checkerboard and 2 shitty CG models to work with. That's kind of the vibe I'm getting here. Uh, there is a lot of potential, and I would love this series, this season at least, realized by some other more capable studio. Like, it's Shaft, a very, very prominent studio that created some banger series. But I'm not saying that, right? Like, if you told me that this was done by some no name outsourcing studio in South Korea, I would believe you. If you told me that it was a fan project, I'd be like, hell yeah, that's some decent quality for a fan project. But an anime that's backed by Crunchyroll, that's backed by Shaft, that's backed by Rooster Teeth, it's kind of shit. And this episode really shows that, because we had some genuinely cool moments. Some combat sequences were cool. The thing with Blake on fire, that was genuinely amazing. The bit with Yang running away from that manor, all the surrounding there, that was cool. That was some great visuals. And then we are served a checkerboard pattern and a CG Vice flying into the sky, and we are served a close-up shot on a bike tire, and we are served a panning shot of a city with combat sounds in the background, and it's suddenly not great. There were more examples of that throughout this episode as well. One shot in particular that I didn't find when going through this, and honestly, I can't be asked to find it. With Young's face being like stretched out as if she had like a Chad chin, and yeah, not great. I would love this series realized by a different studio. Which studio? I don't know. Any, honestly, any. Give it to Mappa, give it to Madhouse, give it to I'm fucking know Kyoani, give it to Trigger, give it to anybody but Shaft, because Shaft clearly doesn't give a fuck. Shaft just wants to be paid, It was an order made by Rooster Teeth. We're gonna pay you this much, spit out an anime, and that's the deal. There isn't much passion, much care throughout the majority of it. Some moments, right? Some blinks, some inklings that you can see that someone who worked on that actually watched the original RWBY and liked it, so they wanted to do their best. But the others working on that were just wages who just want to go home after 12 hours at the studio and being paid peanuts and silently contemplating Karoshi. Yeah, that's the vibe I'm getting. Now, I heard it's fairly common for Shaft shows that on release they look at like absolute garbage and they are fixed for like a Blu ray release. So maybe after this season is done and there comes time for a Blu ray, a lot of these issues will be fixed. Although I'm not particularly hopeful. I would love for that to be the case, but one, I probably would not watch this series again, honestly. And two, I can only talk about what I have in front of me. I can't like give a score to something that doesn't exist. What I see is this, and what I see is shit. So I say it's shit. I can't tell you that, oh, but the Blu ray version is better because the Blu ray version doesn't exist yet. Uh, Great characters, great stories, wasted potential when it comes to the length of it and when it comes to the art. That about sums up my feelings. But we're gonna talk about this a little bit more, I guess, around episode 12. Far as this episode is concerned, I guess it's kind of the whole season in a vignette because all my thoughts about the season as a whole are true for this episode in itself, where great characters, great stories. It's just the art. Sometimes it's great, and you see the potential, and you want more, and then you see a checkerboard, and you're kind of just, why? Why have you forsaken me? Right? It's not great. Okay, I'm kind of spinning in circles now, so I'm gonna end it here. Episodes, good, bad. That would be my score. Good, bad episode. But maybe you have some other opinion on this episode. Maybe you really loved it. Maybe you really hated it. I don't know. Tell me about it down in the comments below. I read the interview with the creators of this show, and they were all going on about how they love RWBY, how they feel so privileged to be able to do that, how they were planning to do that with the original creator, and oh, you could feel the love. But then the artistic side was given to Shaft, and that was a huge fucking mistake, apparently. But yeah, you guys tell me what did you think about it? About my commentary, my reaction, my thoughts, my I guess I don't know, anything you want. What did you have for breakfast today? Tell me in the comments. No spoilers, although you can't really spoil me that because no spoilers for the original series because I'm gonna be watching the original series, so you don't want to spoil me that. Like this video if you liked it, dislike it if you disliked it. But tell me why so I can improve. Subscribe to the channel to be notified of future releases of not only RWBY Ice Queendom but also Madoka Magica, another Shaft show that's actually pretty fucking decent. Of Symphogear GX that I'm watching and gonna be finishing soon, so might want to stay subscribed for that. Overlord Season 4 as well. Yovka Shinota, which is my go-to show for some pretty pictures, and of course also Hataraku Mao-sama Season 2. Subscribe, click the bell if you want to be notified. I also stream sometimes, play some games, stuff like that. Support the channel if you want on Patreon or Throne monetarily, links in the description. On Patreon for $10 a month you get early access to non-seasonals like Madoka Magica, like Symphogear, and for just $1 you get a role on the Discord, and you also get a place in the credits. On Throne, you can pitch in towards my purchase of a proper camera, better lighting, stuff like that. And if you don't want to spend any money whatsoever, you can still support the channel a lot by sharing my content, spreading the word, telling people that I exist and they might want to check me out, because that can bring new viewers, new subscribers, and it always helps. Yeah, that's gonna be it from me for today. I have nothing else to add. So, as always, you guys do all the good stuff, and I'm gonna see you in the next one. Cheers! And here's the credits I mentioned. You can be one of those people if you so want.